What's happening, everybody? My name is Justin and welcome back to our BTR Garage. Today is the beginning of a big weekend for my 1994 BMW 325 IS. We have all kinds of parts and things we need to install on the car, some things we need to change and upgrade. And today I'm going to be starting the teardown of the car, basically taking out everything that I am going to be changing or that needs to be repaired before we can put the new parts on and get it race ready for the track. So the last few months for me have been really busy. Unfortunately, I have not spent any time on my BMW. I had been working on the BRZ. As you guys know, we're getting ready to sell that car pretty soon. We parted it out. It's sitting out in the driveway now in bone stock form, or pretty close to bone stock form. And once that car is out of here, we've got one car to focus on, my 1994 BMW 325. And I have a ton of stuff to do to this car. The parts I've been stockpiling up in my garage, and we haven't got anything done. I literally have got it up on the quick jack ready to be worked on, but nothing has been done. So we have so many things ready to go for the car. We have the new MCS suspension, as I showed you guys earlier. I have a new hood because the hood that's on here is dented and kind of crunchy and just doesn't look all that great. So I want to get that cleaned up. Unfortunately, the hood is red, so we're gonna have a little bit of a surprise in the future when we wrap the car to go along with that red hood and the black body. We also have some additional components for the car, a new differential. I got an M3 diff for the rear with a different gear ratio. I have a new racing radiator, so we got to get the radiator out of the car. New Vorschlag camber plates, Vorschlag rear top mounts for the suspension, and some other things as well. I got to take out the race seats actually to install the tie downs for the submarine belts in the body of the car. That's going to be a little bit tricky. We'll see how that goes. And just a bunch of stuff to complete on the car. Today is going to be the actual complete teardown of everything that I'm doing. So we're going to get the hood off, we're going to get the suspension off, maybe the differential off. I might do that tomorrow. Get the radiator drained and taken out as well, and really get the car cleaned up and ready for the parts installations. Alright, so enough talking about what we're going to do. I'm going to start ripping this thing apart, put it on the time lapse, and then sync up with you guys in just a minute. So the radiator is out. That was an OEM original radiator that I actually put in the car a few years back. There is a YouTube video of that, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years ago by now, but when the radiator blew on the autocross course in this car and got a little slippery to say the least. But we got that radiator out. And I have a racing radiator, an all aluminum radiator to put in there. The one that comes with these cars, those OEM style, they have plastic end caps which crack really easily. And we're gonna replace that with the racing radiator, which will be coming soon. Today I'm gonna continue just taking the car apart. So I think what we're gonna do is get the front suspension off of the car, the old TC Klein double adjustables, and the sway bars as well. All right, now we have the front suspension out, the old TC Klein double adjustable suspension. This stuff is old. I don't know how many years I've had it, 4 or 5 years. And one other thing that I noticed, and this is part of taking everything apart, was when I got the car or the suspension off down here, I noticed that the sway bar is basically not even moving in the sway bar bushings. So that is bad. The sway bar should move freely and not be bound up in those bushings. So take a look. So the sway bar down there, the red bar, this should move freely. And it's pretty freaking stuck in there. So another thing I have to do is go under the car, take the front sway bar off. I was planning to do that anyways, just re-lubricates the sway bar bushings, but now that it is pretty much seized up, what that does is effectively add a bunch of spring rate to the car, which is bad if you want to get the car handling the way you want it to handle. If you have added spring rate that you're not accounting for, you're gonna have weird things happen and it's gonna be hard to tune. So we're gonna jump in there, pull off that sway bar, and then get started on the back suspension. Alright, so the rear suspension is removed. I didn't record it because it's pretty easy and straightforward and kind of boring, so I just popped it off the car, got the rear sway bar off the car as well, and threw everything down on the ground here. So as you can see, we have the front sway bar, the old rear shocks, the TC Klein rear shocks and springs, and then the rear sway bar down here. I have to get new bushings for the rear sway bar. Those are kind of old and crummy, and then the ones on the front sway bar, they're still in good shape, and actually you can see on here, they do move around. Get at the right angle here, but they do slide around on here nice and freely. So getting those in that configuration while it's on the car is the tricky part. What you have to do is put washers on this side of the mount. So on the underside, or I guess that's the top side of the mount, the bolts come down out of the car like that, and then the sway bar mount goes up onto it. So you put washers on the top here, so that way when this is sitting in here, it has a little bit more space and it doesn't squeeze up against the body of the car quite as hard, and that will allow the sway bar to move around inside that bushing. Alright, so we have a lot of work to do still to get this thing torn down. I have my new MCS suspension sitting here on the bench, just waiting to go in. It's going to be a little while though until we get that in. I still have to take off this big old hood on the car, get the red one installed. I have to take out the seats again like I mentioned, and then doing the diff, probably the hardest part. Once we have all of that stuff taken off, I think we'll be ready to start putting parts back on the car. I got to do some cleanup in the underside of the body just to get some of the oil leaks and the junk that's been accumulating on the underside of this car for the last 25 years. Get it a little bit clean and nicer on the underside. We're gonna keep at it, get the rest of the stuff off of the car and continue working. So we have the hood off the car. That was pretty straightforward and easy. Probably gonna leave it just off like that for a little while because I wanna do some cleanup under the engine bay and maybe even refinish the valve cover because it is kind of nasty down there, as you can see. And one other thing that I forgot to mention was actually removing some more weight from the car. We're gonna be taking out everything in the doors. So we gotta get in here and take the door panels off. The window regulator and motor is underneath there as well. And then of course, the window glass, which can be a little bit tricky, but try to show you how to do that. So that's what our bare door looks like now that we have everything taken out of there. Now, BMW, in their infinite wisdom, when they originally manufactured these cars, they used rivets to hold that window regulator on. That's why I had to get the drill out and actually drill out the 4 rivets that were holding that thing in place. There's a couple other bolts for the window itself to get the window out of the door frame. Once that regulator's off, you can see the 10mm bolts down on the bottom of each side, and then there's some up on here with the door guide as well. basically just have to take all of that stuff off. And then there's two other tricky bolts. You might have noticed I had to take the trim off of the car on the outside here. So the trim piece that goes along the door, you gotta pop off, and then there's two holes on the outside here that allow you to access some screws or some bolts on the inside of the door through the outside. And then with all of those taken out, the window basically just slides right out. So pretty much done with the doors except for the power door locks. I gotta get the locking mechanism and the power door locks out of there, and also all of this old wiring eventually will come out of the car. At some point in the future, we'll actually take the dash out and all of the wiring, and the car will be totally rewired for track racing only. Now I'm gonna continue on with the interior of the car. I'm gonna get the seats taken out, and then eventually have to drill the holes for the submarine belts. And I think I'm gonna put my nicer seats in the driver's seat of this car as well, since I had that in the BRZ before. And just kind of keep moving my way back until I get to the differential, which is the last big thing. Alright, I have the seats out of the car now. I have some things I need to get taken care of. Both Sparco seats are down here on the floor. I need to move the belts from one seat to the other, or I guess from that one to that one. And then I need to go in the car and do a bit of cleanup on the interior. There's some old clips and things that are in here that are part of the old trim pieces that went in. So you can kind of see those little white clips down there. But a little bit of work to do still, and I actually think I'm gonna close out this video because I'm not gonna get to the differential anytime soon. So the car is in pieces. It's ready to be put back together after a little bit of cleanup, and it's moving along. So it's a long process. We got a lot of work to do still, but I'm hoping to have this thing ready before we go to the next NASA Time Trials event in about a month here. So thanks again everybody for sticking around. This has been kind of a weird video, just taking the car apart and doing a bunch of random stuff. But we got it torn down. Again, we got a lot of work to do, and we're gonna get rolling, and I'll have new videos coming out for each little thing that I install here going forward. So stick around for more good stuff coming up soon. Stay fast out there. I am checking out. Talk to you all next time.